morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. I hope you guys are having a super awesome day. Welcome to the Childcare Business Growth Podcast. I am very excited today for lots of reasons, but to be joined by two amazing ladies, Kate and Carrie. Now, just to give you guys a bit of context here, I tend to focus a lot more around the marketing, the automation side, and all the what I call in my area the fun stuff. Now, having been in this industry for 18 years now, the bit that I find challenging sometimes is dealing with maybe some of the other side of the business, the operational and the delivery pieces. They're not I wouldn't say as fun pieces to work on, but I know there's two individuals right now that are with me that love this and specialize in these areas. So I'm not going to do you both anywhere near enough justice. Kate and Carrie, tell us a little bit about you guys and your amazing background, if you don't mind, just to give everyone a bit of context to where you guys come from, what your story is. Who's going to go first?
I guess me, because Carrie's pointing at me. So, well, we are excited to be here, Nick. So after 32 years in the industry, like a lot of other folks, I started when my oldest was a newborn, and I started with a registered family home. But even before that, I actually was a certified business analyst with the SBA. Okay. So that meant that when I came into being a registered family home, I came with that business lens. And after being a registered family home for a couple of years, the state of Ohio actually asked me to come train registered family homes around the state on how to run their business like a business.
Nice.
I moved to Texas, and this was long before social media. Like, social media was my mom called Carrie's mom. And usually our moms called our grandma and told the other one whatever we were up to. And so somehow in all of that, neither Carrie or I actually knew that the other one was also in early childcare.
Oh,
so I show up in Texas as a single mom, I don't know, 26 years ago, and absolutely fell in love with the fact that Carrie and I were truly kindred spirits. And we started training together. We started a substitute service for childcare industry. I actually went to work for Carrie. I continued to work for small businesses with the Texas Center for Women's Business Enterprise. That was a mouthful. And we have just enjoyed helping those with the passion for children find their passion for the business aspect. And we are so excited to join you. We've worked with over 4,000 directors across the state of Texas and Oklahoma in the last 25 years. And I'm going to leave something for Carrie.
Over to you, Carrie. Go
on. Well, this is the only industry I ever wanted to work in. I've worked in other industries, but that was usually because I needed to raise money to open my schools, or because I was a small investor in something and things blew up. So I went into real estate for a while because of that.
Okay.
But I was in early childhood education as a recipient of early childhood education when I decided this was what I was going to do when I grew up. And I'm a little determined. And so in Texas, you have to be 21 in order to be a licensed director. So I was qualified at 21, according to the state. I'd done everything I needed to do, but I didn't find my first location until I was 23.
Okay.
So I was a little behind my initial time frame because I got married and had a baby, and that kind of just derailed me a little bit. But I took the first building and I did all the remodeling while pregnant with child number 2 to get my first program up and running. And I eventually had 4 schools. I love training my staff, so I started training other people's staff, which led me to training other directors. And now I think that I was put here to be a champion for directors. I think that's, I went through all of the last 3 decades to prepare me to be the person who's like, directors need support and care and specific training designed for them. Because there's thousands of training courses for the frontline staff, for the caregivers, for the educators. But there is almost nothing for the directors. There's lots for the There's a good amount for owners, thanks to you and a couple of other people coming in and doing some good training for the owners. But those directors in the middle, there's just not enough. So.
I couldn't agree more. And this is why, you guys, we've invited you along. We're super excited to have you come along to CBG Live, our intensive next week in Orlando. Super excited to have you guys come along, because one of the biggest things I come across as an owner, we're all really fearful of, we realize how integral our directors are. They're the life and soul of the whole center. But we realize that, heaven forbid, if they ever went off, that something's going to hit the fan, okay? And we're all in that mindset of, we need to look after those directors. And sometimes I think we throw a lot at them. We don't know what they should be working on. We try and go, oh, there's another job too. Let's give it to the director. And things obviously get diluted, and then something gets missed, and one of those plates that was spinning isn't spinning anymore, and all sorts of stuff happens. But what I love about what you guys have done and the amazing books you guys have written is all around, how do we avoid this director burnout? How do we make sure that we're on the same page as an owner and a director, but how do we make sure that we manage that, or we manage the expectation, first of all, but also avoiding that burnout? So I'd love to go a little bit deeper on this, because I know you guys have got an amazing session planned for next week. I'm super excited for it, because lots of people talk to us about this on Mastermind every month. That challenge around, I'm worried about how much should I give my director? Where's the line? Where do you stop? When do you give more? So I'm really excited for you guys to go into that. But what are the most common things you guys come across with directors right now, or owners, where you feel that they're the biggest challenges they have? What are the common things you guys see every single day?
There's so many. I mean, I think one of the biggest things is that they don't understand how to do the thing that their owners are asking them to do.
Okay.
They're like, the owners are saying, I need you to increase enrollment by 20%.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay. And the director doesn't know how to do that. They don't know how to run ClickFunnels. They don't know how to put something on social media that has a strong hook and all of that. So when the owners are asking the directors to do marketing, the directors have no training in marketing. They have no background in that. And another one is staff motivation and retention. And so some directors think that, okay, I'm here to support the staff. And so they're responding to every request from every staff member. And so they're never in the office to get the actual director work done. They're bringing Band-Aids to classrooms. They're covering bathroom breaks. They are helping the director write lesson plans. They are observing in classrooms. They're doing lots to support their staff, but that means they don't have time to do the office work that the owner wants them to do, because the owner needs to know, are we meeting our KPIs?
Yeah.
Well, you told the director that their primary responsibility is to support the staff. So they're spending 95% of their time supporting the staff, and they don't have any time to do the reports. And they're like, what's the point of that KPI report anyway? Like, they don't understand the importance of that balance.
Sorry, Kate, just on that one really quickly, I got a question, if you don't mind. Why do you think this happens? Those points you just addressed there, why do they happen every day? Because I see this time and time again. Because 1 minute that's priority, then this is priority, and that's priority. Why does that happen? Is that because the goals and expectations not clear in the first place?
Oh my gosh. So Kate has a story about this with a center we're working with right now, where they did 0 onboarding with the new director.
Okay.
Like, they didn't even do the 2-day onboarding that they do with their frontline staff. They just went, oh, cool. You're a qualified director. Kate, can you take it and go forward with that one?
Yeah.
Well, except, here's the key point. That's their 4th director in a year.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think in this case, you've got owners who, when they're looking for their director, they think, if somebody says they were a director, that means they automatically know all those things Carrie just said, right? Like, they know how to market, they know how to do tours, they know how to hire and train staff. But the other thing with this particular program, and I love them dearly, and I can totally see why they did what they did. They hired a teacher, they promoted her, and that was it.
Yeah.
Right? There was no follow through on those training, those operations pieces. And this is a program that had been around for 44 years. And then the next person they hired came in with all of the resume that said they had done this before, but they were very different types of programs, right? They were large scale franchises versus a mom and pop with a well-rooted history in a community. So by the time they got to the third one, they hired a parent who had more of a management background. And so they thought this was the missing piece, but they still were truly missing compliance understanding and that difference between teacher, director, and owner.
Okay.
So now we are literally trying to start from the beginning and create SOPs and processes and get all the information out of the founder's head, her children's head, all of the people who've ever been in leadership who are still there, and create a real onboarding program for them. And I think that owners just get really excited to be able to turn over bits and pieces of what they do. They really want to be hands off if they can, without truly doing that, real delegating kind of piece, which is, this is what I'd like you to do, by when, this is how you do it, what resources might you need,
and why to do it.
Yeah.
Why are we doing it? Why do we have the weekly KPI report? What is the purpose of it? There's a whole movie about this called The Office, right? Where people are doing reports and they don't know why they're doing it. But there's a whole office creating those reports. This is one person that you're asking to do lots of different things. And if you don't do good onboarding with good standard operating procedures, it's a huge problem. And a lot of times they meet the qualifications to be a director, but they don't have training in how to be a director. They took college classes in small group communications and microeconomics. So the governing agency says, oh, well, those are business classes. You're good to go. That does not explain 95% of the business management that a director has to do. And also, you took all these classes over the years when you were a teacher in child development. So all the child development stuff you need to know as a director. No, you don't. Yeah. Because the director was doing the communication to the parents. You didn't have to do that as a classroom teacher. When you step into the director role, you're like, what do you mean I have to come up with a letter to go out to the parents before we do toilet learning in the classroom? Can't I just send the letter that they sent last year? We don't have a copy of that. You need to write one.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. I think a lot gets put on directors. One of my firm beliefs, and I don't mean to offend anyone by this, but I personally feel that directors shouldn't be the ones that do all the phone call inquiries and the tours and everything else. I understand the tour part. Yes, definitely the tour piece. But the amount of work that it takes to do the right follow-up and to really call and do the text message and the notes and everything else, I just don't think that person's got the capacity to do that in addition to everything else that's got to be done in the center. There are far more important things that their skill set is more aligned with than that other piece. Because what I often come across is a lot of directors, well, if the parent's interested, they'll call us back. And we all know that's not the case. It just doesn't happen, okay? Especially in the world we are right now with much bigger chains out there. They've got whole offices that are calling these parents, booking those tours in. How are you going to compete? And I think as an owner needs to realize what truly should be passed to a director and what shouldn't be passed to a director. That's one of my big things. I feel that we've always had that mindset, both Jen and I. The other one, I think that, have you guys ever read the E-Myth?
Yes.
Yeah. I love that book because I think it's a classic example of an owner scenario where you've got an owner comes in and goes, right, hey, they own the bakery, they've got to do how to do the customer service piece, how to do the baking, how to all those different pieces. And I think sometimes, as you guys said, often an owner will come in and go, here's everything, just there you go. And then they go off and maybe open another location. And all the systems, the process, the infrastructure, none of that is in place. And then they worry why, and they think it's the director's fault that it's going to shit, excuse my language, because they haven't put those things in place in the first place. So we talked about onboarding. We talked about, the different backgrounds people come from, and they've tried different directors. So obviously onboarding is a critical issue, not giving that person enough time. What other common issues do you find that cause directors to either not stay around or burn out? What are the other common things you guys see?
Well, we could sit here for hours giving you all of them, but
Yeah.
I think another really common one, Nick, is communication and expectations, and owners thinking they've communicated to a director, and a director being cautious about trying to clarify, and they don't have somebody to pick up the phone and call and go, so my owner said something about a KPI report. I'm looking at the example. I have no idea what it is. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do. Who do I call? How do I get support? And so not having mentors or coaches for directors means that they don't have somebody, right? So they may try to go to a significant other or a friend. Sometimes they might even go to their teachers, which changes the whole dynamics of who's in charge. And I think that directors not having somebody to reach out, they don't have their own resource, is really a huge issue when it comes to feeling overwhelmed.
I think that, and then I think also sometimes communication styles. I remember one center that I worked with, I don't know, about a year and a half ago, where the owner was a night owl. And so she sent emails from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. and wanted responses right away. And the director they had hired was an early bird, and they hired her so that she would be there at opening every day. And so the director was just exhausted because they were being expected to work until 9 or 10 o'clock at night and open the center every day.
Yeah.
And that is not an 8-hour day. And the director preferred a phone call, and the owner preferred email. And so much was going wrong with their communication. And we tried to salvage it, but by the time they brought me in as a director coach, the director was pretty much checked out because this had been going on for 9 months, and she was working 15-hour days, and she was fed up.
Yeah.
Totally. That was not a director problem.
Yeah.
That was a communication systems problem.
Really interesting. I was listening to a session yesterday by Jim Rohn. And one of the things he talked about 10 key principles. One of the first ones was around communication. It's making sure you communicate in the right way, and what your interpretation of good communication is totally different to what someone else's is. Yep. So it was really interesting for you guys to say that. So if I'm an owner right now, and I'm struggling I've got a new director or someone that's maybe been with us less than 12 months, and they've got challenges with that particular director. Maybe they think it's the director. Okay, which sometimes they think it is.
And sometimes it is. Sometimes I'm not saying the directors are without fault here. Sometimes they bite off more than they can chew.
Yeah, fair point. So what would your advice be if you were to have a 5-minute conversation with someone right now? What would be those key things that owner needs to sit down, maybe reflect on, start to think to themselves, okay, this is what I need to analyze over we're in January now. That's a perfect time to be doing this. What do they need to do here to evaluate where they're currently at, and to be able to maybe reflect on, is it them or is it actually the owner? What would your advice be to that particular owner?
Well, we might not have the same one. I would suggest both the director and the owner do a 360 evaluation where they get feedback from the parents, from the staff, and from the other members of leadership. So the owner gets it from the director, and the director gets it from the owner. And then if you have other admin staff, and a self-evaluation. And if you don't have one, you can steal the ones from NAEYC or something like that. but doing a 360 evaluation to see where does everybody else see my strengths and weaknesses. And that way you have, by both of you doing it at the same time, you both come in with a little bit of exposed tissue, a little bit of rawness, and then you can say, we need to resolve these challenges. And yes, the director needs to have owned their problems, but the owner, when they come into that meeting, they need to have an agenda that these are the top 3 things that I think we need to work on, not 27.
Yeah.
These are the top 3 things, and give that agenda to the director before the meeting starts. So that's where I would start. Where would you start, Kate?
Well, I'm very close to that. I think the very first thing is pull up your director job description. Look at the size of your program, and are you asking too much of one human? If you've got 100 to 150 kids, you need roughly 1 administrative staff per person for every 50 kids. So if you've got 1 director and you got 100 kids, you're automatically going to overwhelm that director just in the quantity of stuff that needs to happen. And then own it as a director. What role do I want to play? And that needs to be super clear, right? So if you're not one of those 2 admin people and you want to be an offsite, hands-off kind of director,
hands-off owner.
Hands-off owner, you need to make sure that that's really clear, and you need to figure out what support pieces does your director need. And to me, it starts at the job description. Everything cannot be other duties as assigned.
Yeah.
And if the director is spending 60% of their time doing other duties as assigned, then there's definitely some missing holes in the organizational structure. And to me, that's the first place to start, because I find a lot of times owners don't want to think that they have anything to do with the problem. So I think starting with what's in the job description, how much is my director actually doing, and what's left over? And can I hire it done, right? Can I find a great program or product or service to do parts of that so that they can do the parts they love? I love SWOT analysis, whether you do it as a 360 or you do it as a little, the window, either one of those, however that works for you. But let the director find the joy in their job and make sure that they're enjoying it, they're smiling. And if they're avoiding things, chances are those aren't things they like to do.
That's interesting. So let's now talk about, from the director's perspective, what are some of the most common things where you feel the director doesn't feel support?
How long do we have, Nick?
I'll throw myself under the bus. From when I was an owner and I had multiple schools, there were times that parents would skip over the director and call me.
Oh, yeah.
And if I had been over that site for a while we were looking for a director, those parents had a relationship with me. And so it made sense for them to skip over the director and call me because they had a relationship with me.
Yeah.
And they knew I was the ultimate decision maker. And early on in having directors, I would not do what you're supposed to do, which is say, that's very interesting. Let me check with my director to see what we can do about that. I would instead solve the problem for the client, because early on, I was in my 20s, right? Early on, I was like, that family has 3 kids and I need to make them happy, as opposed to that director keeps my program functioning. I need to keep them engaged. So I had to shift my mindset from thinking about every family is most important to my administrative staff are the key element and I need to support them. So when a parent reaches out to me as the owner, I have to go, you know what? Let me check with the director and see da-da-da-da-da. And then if I'm going to call the parent back, I call and say, I just talked to Joni and Joni says da-da-da-da-da. So that's what we're going to be doing. And they're like, but you're the owner. You could do something else. I'm like, But given the staff we have right now and the children we have at the program right now, I think Joni's answer is a better answer for this situation. And that type of thing is hard as the owner because you're used to making all the decisions.
Yeah.
And letting that director say, this is what we need to do for this situation.
Okay, so would you describe that, Carrie, really quickly as basically the owners don't necessarily have the director's back? Is that what you're, would that be a,
I guess interference as such. It's kind of like going above the director's head. I'm familiar with that. I see that a lot. I think that's a really good example. What other examples would you say where, the director feels that I'm struggling right now. This is one of the challenges I have. So interference is a common one. I see that a lot.
Absolutely. So with that, I think you get mixed messages, right? So that, last week you wanted me to concentrate on this, and this week you want me to concentrate on this, and now you want me to do this new thing. And sometimes it can be owners and shiny objects. Yes. Sometimes it can be owners feeling the stress of the financial stress, but not necessarily explaining that to the director, because directors don't always have a training or experience or even know the numbers, right? Like they don't know what loans are out there, the building loans, the cost, the expenses. Like they can do quick math, like they probably know what payroll is, and they might, be able to do the math on how much revenue is coming in based on children, but that's it, right? Like they're missing all of the other pieces. And so if you have an owner who's struggling and isn't prepared to be vulnerable and share those issues, or completely oblivious that they are chasing shiny objects. Yep. They just happen to see on social media, these people are doing this, let's do this. Or they go to a 3-day intensive, and that 3-day intensive comes back with lots of great ideas. And instead of taking one, they want to try to implement them all at the same time and go, here, this is what these people say we need to be doing to fill our program. We need to do them all today. And it may not be, like you said earlier, it may not be in the skill set for the director. So the director is totally overwhelmed because they don't know how to do what you're asking them to do. You've handed them a book or what you think, right? What you got as an owner from going to that 3-day mastermind, masterclass, whatever, right? Like you go to a conference, you come back Monday, and your Monday morning action plan is handing a workbook to the director and go, here, I need you to do this.
Yeah, totally.
Instead of bringing them along, instead of sitting down and going, hey, let's pick one. Which one of these do you think you could help me implement right now, today, in our program, in our community? Because really the director is the one who has their fingers on the pulse of the school, the parents, the community. They know what those families will and will not connect with.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I remember going to a conference once, and
you only went to one?
No. I went to just one particular one, and there was one I came back. Now, every time I used to go, I'd come back, and I'd go, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. We had all these amazing ideas. And the team go, yeah, that's great, but what about everything else we were doing before you went? And it took me a while to kind of realize that. But also, I had a conversation with a gentleman called John Parks. And I said, well, John, why is it that, you go to these events and you come back and then you try and share things with the team, and they don't seem to have that same motivation as you. So, well, number one is obviously because they were already doing a ton of things before you went. And number two, they didn't have the same epiphany as you. And I think that's another common problem as well, is that, you come back, you give all this new stuff to work on. And this is one of the big things we do at our intensives. We never advocate that you go back and take this back. We do the work live at the events, because you know what it's like. You go along to a conference for 2 days, you get all this great content thrown at you, and then you go back into the day-to-day, and the day-to-day takes over. It just happens. So we try and get everything done at the event, so you don't have to then go back and implement everything on Monday morning again. But I think it's a common problem. So we've identified then from a director's perspective of the owner is more around interference, so kind of stepping on toes, lack of clarity or changing the goalposts, and moving those things. Any last ones that you would say is, because what I'm trying to do here, I'm trying to give owners a bit of a polite wake-up call that sometimes it's not just the director that's maybe not doing the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
So one last one that you would give them to kind of go, yeah.
Admit when you make mistakes, because sometimes your director isn't willing to come to you with, I don't know how to do this, or this thing is about to blow up, because they think you know everything and you've done everything and you're perfect.
Yeah.
So setting that environment where it's okay to fail, not on a big grand scale, but it's okay to have little failures. So when you're like, yeah, I tried this new, you've got the ClickFunnels on the wall there. So I tried this new, you as the owner, I tried this new funnel. It was a complete washout. I spent 4 days building it. I tested it. I thought I knew everything. So just want to let you know, you're probably not going to get very many inquiries this week because I messed up.
Yeah.
And so that allows them to go like, okay, I just want to let you know that the Stevenson family may be calling you because I told them they absolutely have to have both a cold weather change of clothes and a warm weather change of clothes for all 3 of their children, because we're in one of those seasons where it could be hot in the morning or cold in the morning and it'll change midday. And they are not happy that they're going to have 6 outfits living at the school. So you might want to know.
Yeah.
But they're not going to do that if they think you never make a mistake and that you know everything, because you've been in the industry for 18 years and they've only been in the industry for 7.
Yeah, that's a good shout. There are 2 other ones I want to touch on as well, if you don't mind. Based on that one in particular, how do you think that information should be communicated to the owner? Let's imagine. So one of the things we believe, we do this with all of our team, we do an end of day. And the reason why we do this, it's simply a Google sheet, essentially broken down to different areas. Positives of the day, negatives of the day, smoke, so anything that could become an issue, and fire, it is already an issue, okay? And tasks that didn't get done. And we do that for all of our team, and I advocate that all owners should get this feedback because, like you highlighted earlier, one of the challenges is around when they communicate, someone's on an early, someone's on a late. Maybe the owner likes to work in the evening, the director's on in the morning first thing. So it's difficult. And also, I think one of the biggest things we noticed, I think a lot of people want to tell you about their success stories throughout the day, but they don't get the opportunity. So what I love about the end of day is that ability to be able to go, hey, this went really well today. This went well, but actually I need some help on this. So how do you, what's your thoughts around how should that summary, is it an end of day? Is it a phone call? What does it look like? What do you guys advocate? I'm curious to know.
I mean, it's going to depend, but I think that the owner has to be filling them out too, not just the lead staff.
That's interesting. Okay.
I think a lot of that comes back to what is the role of the owner? Because an owner who has more than 2 locations or 1 location's got a different role probably in the program than somebody who has 9 centers, who hopefully has truly an administrative team, right? Like that all 9 locations talk to each other, they share information, they share resources, they get that opportunity. So if I was a multi-site owner, I think what you just talked about is awesome. I think that kind of daily check-in, kind of up the food chain to probably more like a regional manager or an executive director, probably somebody who's not the owner, right? But whoever's in charge.
Correct.
Because I think that when you get to, more than a couple of schools, chances are as an owner, you hired those people to do that.
Totally. Yeah.
Your goal is to continue to build the business. So I really think that and people have to have time to fill out the spreadsheet. And I think that depending on the director and the perspective and depending on what's done with that information, if it's done daily, there could be directors who are going to go, I am not adding one more thing to my report. I am happy to meet with my owner. Right. Yeah. So again, when we talked earlier about how do people like to meet, Like, I would be perfectly happy with an email at the end of every day or a text. I have had staff and have staff who would prefer to have a conversation and share it. But I would go, I don't have time for that. So it really just kind of depends. I think that it's really hard to pinpoint one solution. Communication is absolutely key. Communicating what works for you, and finding that middle ground. What are you willing to do? Because we know that there's thousands of apps, right? Pick an app. You can find an app. But if you're more of a texting person, but you want all that content in the same place, well, then maybe you're really going to be a Slack. If you want to be able to talk about it, maybe you're a Marco Polo. If you aren't either one of those and you just want to send an old-fashioned email, then you may be an old-fashioned email. But keeping that communication loop is important.
I think a thing to keep in mind here is that it's not, when I had 4 centers, it wasn't that I had every lead teacher at all 4 centers communicating to me daily. It's my 3 to 5 direct reports that you do that. I did weekly summaries and weekly visits. And so it was just my direct reports. It wasn't every lead teacher communicating with the director. Because if you've got a center that's licensed for 150, that's a lot of people. So it should be maybe the infant toddler coordinator is getting the end of days or the end of weeks from the infant toddler leads. And then that coordinator is doing that up the line to the director. Totally.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah, we do the same with like a lot of our clients practice level 10, so EOS, and they have that same structure. You know, it goes to that line lead, and then that line lead, if they feel they need to raise it on the level 10, they'll then bring that to the level 10 just as a weekly summary. Hey, just so you got a heads up, this happened this week that we need to be aware of that might come back and bite us in the butt. So, guys, I could talk to you about this forever. Now, I'm very excited. We can't reveal too much, but your email around what you've got planned for next week is intrigued me. So all I saw was we've got bananas and we've got, what was the other one?
Snow.
He
wanted me to have a worksheet. I'm like, I don't do worksheets, but I got bananas and snow.
No, I think I've come up with an idea for them to have that tactile thing. So their Monday morning action plan from our session, but they're going to be doing stuff during the session.
I love that. So, I absolutely love that. One of the big things we advocate at these intensives is let's get people doing things. Let's not just sit there for an hour. So I'm super excited. Snow in Florida. It'll be very interesting to see what you guys got planned.
Carrie's going to dress like a banana.
I am not going to dress like a banana.
I have the costume.
I've got the monkey costume. Do you want to wear the monkey costume?
It's out there now, guys. It's out in the public. Everyone knows. We know what we're expecting next week. Hey, I could talk to you guys about this forever, but we've got to keep something back for next week. But what's the best way for people to connect with you guys? If they are, maybe they're an owner right now or a director, and they feel either they're an owner that needs to support their team more, or the director's in a situation where they feel, I just need more help. How do they reach out to you? What's the best place for them to get started, at least with you guys?
KateandCarrie.com.
Love that. Okay. KateandCarrie.com. So, and you've got some awesome books. I know you're going to be bringing one of those next week. So there might be some gifts in store for people that come along to the event next week. So
we'll actually have all of them with us. So we'll have some others at the table. So absolutely.
Looking forward to seeing that. Guys, so
Carrie, Debbie wants to see you as a banana.
I saw that.
I didn't see that comment. Oh yeah, definitely. Debbie will be there. So she's looking forward to seeing that. No pressure now, guys. Hey, I want to thank you both. Make sure you showed some love in the comments as well, everyone, when you watch the replay. I know lots of you tend to watch this as a replay. Let us know, of course, if you have any questions. Maybe you're a director right now and you're struggling. How do you approach the owner? You know you need that support. You just don't know how do you go about this. If there's any questions you have, anything at all, make sure you reach out. We'll happily help you guys. And Kate and Carrie, I'm super excited, super grateful for you guys joining me today. And I can't wait to see you guys in Orlando next week.
Sounds great. Keep warm, and we will see you with the mouse.
Thanks, guys. See you later. Have a great day.
Or whoever.
Thanks for watching, everyone. We'll see all the guys on the next Childcare Business Growth podcast.